Hi, this is my Prado 2015 Prado GX, which has no side steps apparently. So I've got some from OCAM and I'm going to try and fit those myself. I can use a spanner, but that's about it, so we'll see what happens. The instructions not that clear to me, but we'll see how we go. Okay, thanks. So there's an instruction sheet on the website. It says Prado, SS2 Prado, doesn't say what year. It says 150, 2018 plus. So mine's 2015, so we'll see what happens. I can't see any instructions for 2015. So on the second page is the bill of materials, parts list, and all looks pretty right. So we got the left and right hand step, that's fine, and the T-bolts, that's these things. Says 13 of them, and there's 13 in the package. Then there's these T-bolts with wire to poke in. I've seen them in use. On here it says I need one, but there's 5 in the box, so maybe they're spares or I will need them, I don't know. On the instruction sheet there's 2 of these coil spring line M8. Says 2, and there are 2, but there's no mention of them in the instructions of, you know, when you go through the steps what you do with them. So we'll see. The T-bolts. There comes with plastic clips. So once the bolts are through, you can put those plastic clips on, and that'll hold them in place while you screw in. So there's 12 required, and there's 12 in the packet, so that's looking good. So we've got the flat washer, spring washer, and the M8 bolt that are on the list here. It says 13 of each, and there's 14 of the washers and 13 nuts, so again should be all right. And then it says combo bolt, which I think is this one, which is a bolt with the washer and the spring washer captive on the end. It says 4 of those, and I've got 4 of those, I think, at least that many, so hopefully we'll be right. Although there is also this bolt, which looks like about 50 mil, it's M8. That doesn't appear in the instructions either, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, the T-bolts with the wires, it says on there, but again there's no instruction to use one of those. It says use the normal T-bolts and the washers and that, but we'll see. I sent an inquiry, but I haven't had a response yet, though it is the weekend. What I'm going to do is take the bar out on the driver's side and offer it up to the chassis and see if I can see the holes that match, and see which ones I might need a T-bolt or a combo bolt, and see what happens. So I'll do that now. Put the right hand side step up to the car, and we'll see what happens. Okay, cheers. So inside this box, which is 6 feet long, so good enough for a cardboard coffin, you'll find the steps. You take the top off and you find the left hand steps on the front, so I've turned it over. Get the right hand one out, undo all the wrapping, very well wrapped. So it'll take a bit of doing to pull it all off. Stanley knife or scissors and get that off. Okay, well here's the right hand step I've got out of the box, and you can tell it's the right hand one because looking at the main bar here, there's a join in there, and that's at the front, where if you fitting the brush bars, that goes in there instead. So we know that's the front, so this must be the right hand side. We've got some foam from the box. We'll try and offer it up without dropping it on my head, and we'll see what happens. Well, we're under the car and I've got my torch on so you can see a little bit. So this is the front, and we're looking at the side, outside of the right hand chassis member. There's this thing here, which I'm not sure what that's called. That's a bit too far forward because the body comes down here, and I think the step goes under that. So there's these three holes there. They don't seem to line up with the front first bracket. So if we go down a bit further, try and get a shot of it. There's the first bracket, and there are above that there are these two square holes which line up with seem to line up with the holes in the bracket. And there's also a bolt hole in the bottom of the cross member under there. I don't know if it's visible from where I'm showing. Is it that one? It's a little bit 100mm past to the rear of this cross member, so that looks like it's a possibility. And let's see the back. There's the rear bracket. It's hard to film it without. There's a hole there behind it. Up there, maybe that's the one. And there's a larger hole, the square hole, which might fit the that hole there. So this is the fitting instructions. So there's a picture of the right hand step, because it says front there. So that's the front, there's a picture of it, and it shows the bolts coming through. So there's 2 bolts there and 1 underneath on the front step, and 3 bolts and 1 underneath on the rear step. But that's about it. It's impossible to see which are the right bolt holes you want. You just have to try it. But that, hopefully they'll all line up. Then there's a close-up of the bolts going through the mounting plates. When you're finished, yes, it's good to know what it's supposed to look like when it's finished, but we'll see. Then there's 3 lines of instruction there, which says which washers to put on. So see what happens. Okay, apologise for the jerky camera work, but trying to do it myself while holding the side step. Well, I had a look on the other side, the left-hand side of this car, and underneath the chassis it's quite different, because there's all the underbody protection, and there is a little plate, a bit like this, which is bolted on the underneath of the chassis rail, which is not on the right-hand side. And there is a note here, please use OEM bolt, pointing at this thing. So I'm guessing that is the OEM skip plate. Bit hard to get in there with the bash plates under there. They're the standard plates, they're not aftermarket as far as I'm aware. But so maybe that is the one. And if you look very closely at the photo here, or the picture, there is this line going up here on the right hand side. So that's the one I was thinking of, but I think that's on both sides, because there's another one here, this unlabelled line. If I had a workshop manual it might help, but I didn't think I'd need one. Anyway, I think it's going to fit. I'm going to bolt on the front end, or at least one or two bolts on the front mount, and then see how it lines up on the rear. A bit not the right way my engineer father would have said, but let's try it. Okay, so I'm going to try and fit the front bracket. So there's a hole there which looks roughly the right position, just back from that cross member. So I'm going to have to use a T-bolt in there, and then there's two up above here again which look roughly the right position. So I've put the T-bolts in with their plastic holders on there. I haven't done the one down there. Hopefully I can put that in after, maybe. We'll have to see. I don't want to try and... Well, those two bolts are in. It looks pretty right position without looking at the holes at the back. So, okay, so I think I haven't tightened them up or put the washers on, but there's two bolts in holding it. I'm going to try and fit the third T-bolt in the bottom of the cross member and see how that goes, if I can get it in without undoing the first two. And then we'll see how the back looks. Well, with the front just secured with the two bolts, I'll have to take it off again to get the third one in underneath, but there's that hole there matches up. There's a hole under there which might do the job, and there's one there and one up above where I've stuck one of the T-bolts in from the outside. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it there. And there's a hole behind that, so they will go in. I have to double check and see if they've got captive nuts or not. I thought that one did, but I have to have a look. There's a couple of others like that one there, but that's not in the right place. Okay, so to get the bolt in here, I've had to take the step off again, and there's the two holes where the screws were at the top, so I've taken that off. The T-bolt won't go through the hole, so I would be using one of the T-bolts with the wire on it, the fixed wire. But I think what's supposed to do is that these little coil spring, which screws onto an M8 bolt, comes with that. So I've poked one through there, poked the wire up so it comes out up here, screwed to one of the T-bolts on the bottom. We're going to pull it through into the chassis and hopefully it'll come out that end. If it comes off, I've lost the T-bolt inside the chassis, and who knows what will happen next, but this is the way we do it. Hopefully the T-bolt will come out again, and I should put a string on the other end of the T-bolt. I might do that. I'll put a string on the other end so I can pull the T-bolt back through that hole if it doesn't work. But hopefully it'll come through, and then I can put the plastic plate on it, and I can screw that all three bolts back on and do them up finger tight, and then start working on the back. Okay, so this has been an hour and a half now, and I'm looking at maybe getting the first few bolts on. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Cheers. Okay, well, putting the T-bolt on the end of the coil spring and feeding it through with the string back up did work. I had to get the string off again, but anyway, that came off, and I've got the three bolts through and loosely in, so I can still wiggle the rear end around and try and line it up with the bolts. So we'll see how we go. Yeah, cheers. Okay, the rear plate, there's bolt holes there for it. So it should be a matter of bolting it on. None of them have got captive bolts on, so I have to get the T-bolts into all of them. None of them are the big square holes like that, so I'll have to use the spring and wire and get them through, and then hopefully they'll all go on. They're not a loose fit, so careful not to push the bolt back in because there's three bolts in that plate plus the one underneath. But it should work. I'll just say a few Hail Marys. Okay, let's see how we go. I'll have to loosen off the bolts at the front so I can get in behind. But hopefully I won't have to take it all the way off. Cheers. Okay, we've got the left-hand side step now. The other one's on. So we've got, there's that cross member. So we're a bit back from that. There's a bolt underneath, or a hole underneath. So I put the, I used the wire with the bolt with the wire handle. Put down through there. I've got the nut and the washer and the spring washer on there. Just above that there's the two square holes, similar to the other side. I've got the T-bolts in there. There you go, that fits. Nothing there. Up the back, getting started. That's the back there, and above that there's a square hole, and then down here what's the end? There's three holes on this side. One's this one, which is the top right, and then this one here, which is the bottom right one. So we're going to use the spring, pull the T-bolt through, and the other one is here. So I'm going to get the T-bolt through on the spring. The bolt underneath, I think it's that one there. But you've got to undo this section, and I guess that's what they call the skip plate. I suppose we call it the bash plate. So we're going to get that off, pull it out of the way a little bit, and then put the get the plate, the step mounted on, and then screw that bash plate back up with the original bolt. So that's the plan. It is progressing. So using the spring with the and screwing the let's see here, screwing the T-bolt into the screw, you can pull it through, get it into position. It's better to push the spring end through and get it out through the hole first before you put the T-bolt on. So rather than put the T-bolt on and then push the end of the wire through there, that's a bit more difficult. It's easy to push the spring in through there, get it out, and then put the T-bolt on. But so these clips up here, they don't need to be touched. It's just this guy down here. Well, we'll see how it goes. Well, here we come to the next issue. So there's the one of the bolts. That's the other one there.
ready for the mounting. But here's the OEM skip plate as fitted, and I've taken out the bolt there. That's a 12mm head. I think it's an M8 screw. But you can see there's the little hole which is M8 size, and where you're supposed to put the last T-bolt through, but it won't come through because the skip plate's there. When you read the actual instructions, it says remove the skip plate before installing. Well, the skip plate's about 1.5 meters long, and I don't know how many screws there are holding it in place, so it's not something you do without a hoist. So not quite so simple as it says. I did have a manual which said, to replace this, remove the engine and then do this simple procedure. Yeah, right. I'm just going to cut a little bit out around there so I can get the bolt through, and then I can screw it back on. I'm not sure where the hole, once the plate's on, whether there's going to be room for the original bolt to go back in its original hole, because it's only about 50mm away from the original, and I don't know if the U-shaped mount on the plate is going to leave enough room. Anyway, we'll see, come to the next step and solve the issues as we come to them. Cheers. Okay, well, we're ready to try the final fit now. So that's the bash plate, and here's where the original nut or bolt goes in, and that's where the hole in the chassis where I've got where the T-bolts comes out. So I've cut the side of cut the bit of the corner off the bash plate, so the bolt hole's still there, and then cut back and cut a bit off so that there's room for the nut. I think when the plate goes in under there's not going to be room for this to go beside it. It's going to go on top of it, and I'll be able to put the nut, hopefully the bolt will still go through on the other side of the plate. Right, we'll see. The other two nuts are in and the front one's ready, so we'll see how we go. Well, here we are, and the back mounting bar is in. Quite a lot of trouble getting it in because I had to couldn't move it around without loosening the bolts at the front right off. And then you run the rest of the front foot falling down. Anyway, but I did get it on. The 3 bolt holes line up, and the top right one is captive bolt, so that's good. So that all lines up, and the front's all on. So you'd think if the front was on, then the back would fit, but there's a bit of a mess here because this here is the OEM skip plate, or the original bash plate. So I unbolted that and levered it down to get this part of the mounting plate in. So it's a U shape which goes in like that. But the mounting hole, or the hole where the original bolt went in, is it's too far over this direction to be used for that plate, that U socket, U-shaped hole in the new mounting bracket, mounting plate. So that hole's too far over, and there was an M8 round hole there, which I put a T-bolt in, but that's too far this direction. So that's under the plate approximately there where my finger is. That's too far that direction, so I can't get either of them through there. What I should do is you could drill right through this part of the bash plate, through the this flange of the mounting bracket, and through into the chassis. Put a captive, put a T-bolt through from one of the slots and put another nut and bolt on it. But I'm not going to do that now. I'll leave it to my mechanic to do on the hoist.
All looks pretty good. The other side's on as I did the first one, but this one's good. It does look smart. It's solid, and I'm not going to do any rock sliding, I think, so I think it'll do the job. But it's been 3 sessions of 2 hours for me to get it on, and I must admit I'm doing it in the carport without any jack or anything and by myself, so that makes it take it much longer than it would otherwise, but it's not a quick job. If you do it in the workshop with a hoist and a hoist to lift the bracket and lift the step and hold it in place, it'd be a lot quicker. And it'd be a lot quicker if the instructions were better and you could and it explained what the coil spring was for and how you use the T-bolts and so forth. That would help too. Anyway, I think it's a pretty good product. But the installation is not quite so easy. I don't know how much someone would charge to do it, but it's up to you. I was in a hurry and I thought it wouldn't be this bad, and you know, usually I can do this sort of thing, but did get it on. But good product, but work out how you're going to, who's going to do the installation. Okay, no worries. Thanks then. Happy trails.